Hi guys, the date is April the 9th, 2026, and this is a video about responsibility. And so, when talking about responsibility, you kind of want to go back to the start. You know, you're a kid, your parents have a responsibility to take care of you, and I guess they have a responsibility that you have a decent childhood. Then, as you start to grow up, you decide you want more responsibility. So maybe you get some chores, maybe you get a budget, maybe some money that you're responsible for, or a pet. And then as you get more and more responsibility, you become more independent. But there becomes a cutoff point where you fully take responsibility for your own life, and that's what I'm going to talk about, because that's what I'm kind of going through right now, because I'm 18 and I've got a good job and I'm planning to move out and become fully self-sufficient. But that means I have to take responsibility for my life and for everything, and I'm okay with that. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about the process, because, you know, if you're in a situation where you don't want to have too much responsibility too young, because that can cause damage. But as you get older, it starts becoming a trade-off, because if other people are still responsible for you, I don't want to say you're still under their control, but let's say you still live in your parents' house. If your parents ask you to mow the lawns or take out the trash, you got to go do it, because you are in their house, you know? And it's kind of empowering when you take responsibility, because it really gives you clarity when it comes to saying no to other people and letting other people have control over you, you know? And it doesn't mean you don't have to help out. Like, I'm not completely moved out of the house, but, you know, I pay for my own food, and I'm almost at that point where I can start renting on my own. But if my parents need help doing the lawns, I'll say, I can do it this weekend, or I can do it at this time, or, you know, I'd like to help you with that, instead of, okay, I have to drop what I'm doing and go out and do it now, you know? Because even though I don't have a responsibility to do it, it's still a nice thing to do. But it completely moves the control back into your own hands. You don't have to, and it puts you in a very independent position. Another thing when it comes to responsibility is intention. Now, this is getting much deeper into day-to-day responsibility. So, when it comes to intention, you have to, when you're deciding something, when you're making a decision, and your intention is for a certain outcome, like, I'm going to go on YouTube and watch a tutorial video on how to make a steak, because I would like the outcome, me learning and making a steak. And it's simple, you know? But what's happening with intention nowadays is we just click on, we click on Instagram or click on YouTube and let the algorithm decide for us, which ends up taking the intention away. We don't have an intention of what we're gonna do. We're letting something else make the decision for us. So we don't know what the actual outcome is gonna be. So we aren't taking responsibility for what we're feeding into our brains, and what we see become our thoughts, and what our thoughts are become our actions, and our actions shape our entire lives. So if you follow it back, because of the lack of intention, brings in a lack of responsibility, which lets someone else shape your life. And when you were a kid, you did this too. You had no intention of, you know, how I put this, when your parents kind of were the algorithm. They kind of had the control, and you would go with what they thought was best because, you know, they have more experience in life. So what they decide they want to be the outcome for you, which is another problem with parents when they don't think about the outcome, and then they just do stuff that their parents did that left damage, and that's where intention comes into, but we're not going to get into that. But what I'm saying is, it was okay when you were a kid, because I hope that your parents had you in their best interest, and as they were shaping your life. But as you have to grow up and leave the home and take responsibility, I have to take responsibility for all the, I don't want to say childhood trauma, because it's not that bad, but they did leave. There were some issues that I've had to start working through, and I have to take responsibility for that. And blame is useless, so I just gotta do what the best next step is. But it's the exact same with the algorithm. At some point, you're gonna have to decide, you know, you're a grown up, and you need to take responsibility for your own life. You know, you it's like leaving the house, leaving the algorithm. You can't, it sounds very Escape the Matrix, but I'm trying to put it in a logical way so it doesn't sound silly. But I think I've said, like, I've conveyed the point, where the algorithm is just taking away your intention, and so it's shaping your life through thoughts, then to actions, to your life, and it doesn't have your best interests at heart. It wants to sell you stuff. It wants your attention. It wants this or that. And it's, you know? So in a day and age when we're having ads and promotions always like pushed down our throats, living with intention is a very important thing, especially an important thing of growing up. Because I don't want to be unkind, but I see a lot of adults that haven't grown up yet. They don't live with intention, and they don't take responsibility. You know, they're just kids in adult bodies, and you know, they have some things that matured, some things didn't, like we all, you know, nobody's perfect. I shouldn't judge other people when, you know, I'm imperfect myself, but it's good to be aware of this, because once you're aware of it, you can understand it, and then you can make the decision if you would like to start living with intention in a world that everything is trying to shape the outcome of your life. It's funny because everything's like trying to take responsibility for you. Everything's like coming up to you and say, here, let me hold your bag for you. Let me take your plate to the kitchen, you know? Let me show you this product, you know? Like, it's like when you watch a YouTuber and he does a promotion, he's like, guys, since you're my fan base and I love you, I'm gonna give you guys the best deal on these nutritional supplements that you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, wow. First of all, you didn't have the intention to see that. And second of all, so you're not gonna be taking responsibility. And on top of that, it feels like someone else is taking responsibility for you, for your health. So you're like, wow. It's kind of like a parent thing. They're caring for me. They're caring for my health. I'm gonna go buy some of those supplements, you know? And it's everywhere. And the first step of that is first taking responsibility, and then having intention, so you can take more responsibility, and so you can have, I don't want to say full control over your life, but take your life in a direction you want it to go, you know? But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to cover. Thanks for watching. That's the end of the video.